You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Hello, everyone. Dr. Joe Pazona from Nashville, Tennessee is with us today, and I can't wait to share his wisdom of how healthcare can develop into the virtual aspect. How are you, Doc?
I'm great. Thank you for having me today.
Sure. It's a pleasure. So can you give us a little overview of where you started and where are you now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the only physician in my family. I kind of stumbled into healthcare. And when I was at that point in my medical training where I had to decide what sort of doc I wanted to be, I fell in love with surgery. I was very unexpected. I thought I was going to be a pediatrician because I always liked kids, but I quickly realized I didn't like sick kids, nor their parents. Got the patience of an angel, and that just wasn't me. And I love just the immediacy that the surgeons were able to fix problems. But I also, very early on in my journey, was honest with myself with what I wanted my life to look like. And again, God bless our colleagues who can stay up all night delivering babies, taking out gallbladders. I knew that sort of life wasn't for me. And I stumbled into urology and I was like, wow, these guys are really happy. They're smart. It's a good mix of surgery and medicine. They seem to really enjoy what they were doing. And I said, well, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And that kind of took me on my journey into urology, but again, not having much guidance. And, most of us leaving training kind of don't know what the real world looks like, just kind of stumbled into private practice and took it for there for a while.
Interesting. Now, having known what you know right now, what do you think success means to you then?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it's a moving target. I think early on when you think of success, you think financial, you think about, how many papers you're going to write as an academician potentially. You look at, quote, your surgical volume and how busy you're going to be. And so that definition has really shifted. And I really think that for today, it's multifaceted for me. Because how many people do we know who are financially successful and their health is terrible and they have no relationships? So I really look at success as really sort of three tiers. It's got to be first and foremost your own health. When at the end of the day, our health is all that matters, because if we're not well, we can't take care of others, we can't practice our craft, and you can't enjoy life. So I look at health as one big aspect of success. Next would be relationships, whether that's personal or professional. Life isn't fun just being by yourself. I love that I've got a family who supports me at home and I enjoy being with. And I also love that I have colleagues across the country, both new and old, that really stimulate my mind. And then, professionally, and that has certainly changed. Yes, we certainly have financial goals because, money can't solve problems, but it can sure fix a lot. And I think there certainly is a level you want to hit, especially as a physician. But it's more about what sort of impact I'm making on the healthcare system. And I'm really more interested in, at this stage in my professional career, doing something that matters, something that's got a long-lasting impact, because the system is broken. We're as wealthy as we've ever been as a country, but yet we're the sickest and loneliest we've ever been also. So we're obviously not getting something right with healthcare, and that the $4.6 trillion in healthcare is not being delivered in the most effective manner. So for me, that's how I define success: is it's got to be your health, it has to be your relationships, and it has to be professional. And the professional side has to be something bigger than money.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned financial success and the fact that the population right now is not healthy. We look at the best healthcare system in the world, or we want to be. But if you look at the population health span, I would say we're not doing very well. And I don't think anybody can figure this out, or they don't want to figure it out. I think there's some components here that are working from the sidelines that we are or we're not aware of. What I'm referring to is probably the big lobby industry that's for the food industry that's out there that kind of keeps people of being well informed and read the labels and know what they're getting in their mouths. How do you think this is going to go?
Yeah, I mean, it has to change. And it changes by, I believe, physician entrepreneurs. We have to be the catalyst when all is said and done. We are trained from day one in medicine in sick care. We learn about pathophysiology. We learn about pharmacology. You take a bunch of symptoms, you group them together as a diagnosis, and then either you cut on that person or you hand them a pill, push them out the door, rinse and repeat. But yet, as you alluded to, and what the data now supports, is that probably 80, if not closer to 90% of all chronic diseases are diseases of lifestyle. And so, how is it that we have the most advanced healthcare system, but yet we're failing? And it's because it is all centered around sickness, and it's all centered around incentives to keep people sick. So, starting with our medical education, we learn next to nothing that is up to date about nutrition, exercise physiology. But yet, those are probably two of the biggest things that we can do to impact our patients' health. Physicians are some of the worst people when it comes to sleep hygiene. But yet we know that we're killing ourselves by lack of sleep, and we almost have wear it as sort of a proud, we stick out our chest and we talk about how many hours I worked or didn't sleep when I was in residency training and so on. And so we're the biggest offenders of that. And so I think the way we improve it is we have to have an alternative system, because listen, as long as there's trillions of dollars to be made on illness, and we know this, just watch, the Super Bowl was just yesterday. How many commercials were based on fast food and different drugs? It's all sickness. And unfortunately, we can sit here and complain about the food lobby and the pharma lobby and all of it. They're not going away. They're making way too much money. But if enough physicians are creating an alternative ecosystem, I know with certainty there are patients who want that. And I see it every day in my own practice. And so I think that's the way we make the change. It's going to take a while. It's going to be grassroots. We've got to figure out a way to make it cost effective for the mass population. But you're paying for your healthcare whether you like it or not. You can either pay for healthy foods now, or you can pay for your diabetes drugs in 20 years. But you're paying the piper. I mean, it's going to happen. You're going to pay in lost wages because you're out because you had an MI, or you can invest in again, eating whole, actual, unprocessed foods. And so, yes, I'm a urologist by training, but at this stage of my life, I'm so much more interested in solving this issue, because it really is the core of what's wrong with our healthcare system.
Yeah, I agree with that. You mentioned a physician entrepreneur. You are one. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, I really, similar to medicine, I sort of stumbled into entrepreneurship. It was out of, like most things, out of necessity. I was after my training, I went and took an employed physician spot. I, had the naive mindset of, well, I'm just going to focus on the healthcare. I don't know all this fancy business stuff. I'll let someone else do that. And I did it for a while, and it's probably a good decision when I first came out, so I could focus on learning my craft. But I quickly saw that when you gave the control to people who were not healthcare professionals and clinicians, that something was missed. And that ultimately only truly a physician, and then I think other clinical staff, can truly understand what the patient journey is like and what the delivery of healthcare is. It's kind of interesting. Healthcare is really the only field where you can't just take a random executive, pop them into the quote worker bee spot, and they can do it. If you could throw Jeff Bezos in an Amazon warehouse and he'd figure some stuff out. You can't do that in healthcare. And so I was just tired of being a part of various practices and environments where my ideas weren't necessarily fostered, they were shut down, that we just accepted the status quo, where we just thought it was okay that patients walked into a crowded waiting room with 30 of their closest friends with 1970s decor, and had some rude front desk person who just shouted out all their private information and didn't answer phones. And we just ran these clinics, and then I'd have to go sit in a meeting and have someone who found an online MBA somewhere and went and did some Toyota lean business class, and all of a sudden was quote a healthcare leader telling me how to do my job. And so it's ultimately led to a point in my career, to be frank, where I was fired from a job. I was in a pseudo leadership position where I was told I'd be able to make these decisions and build a department, and it just wasn't the case. And ultimately, my attempts to advocate for my patients got me a meeting where they said, Joe, you're a great urologist, but you, quote, don't fit in here. AKA, stop trying to change things. This is the way it's going to be. Just shut up, doctor, and do your job, or we'll replace you. And that was that turning moment for me, Tudor, where I realized I was just another widget. I was just another employee. I just had a higher price tag and a fancy degree at the end of my name, but I was no different than the maintenance staff or someone who answered the phones. And so it was then that I said, I've got to create my own journey, if anything, for my family. I couldn't keep moving around. I had tried other employed positions. It looked and felt and sounded the same everywhere, talking to our colleagues across the country. So it was really born out of necessity, where I said, I've got to figure this out. It's time. I know how this should look. And that started my entrepreneurial journey of really teaching myself the necessary skills to get to where I am today. And I've learned a lot in the past 5 years. I'm still learning today. I still make a lot of mistakes, but that's really what's been exciting. Is it's a new challenge to learn business and entrepreneurship, because I think the one thing doctors get wrong is business is very simple, but it's difficult. And by that I mean, we learned cardiopulmonary physiology. That's complex. Like, that takes some science background to understand, and preload, afterload, all that stuff, if I'm remembering that correctly. Business is very simple principles, but they're difficult to implement because it takes discipline, because you're dealing with people, because you have to make a decision today and you may not know the result for weeks, months, or even years. And so it's so much different than medicine. We compare that to, say, a patient in the ICU, where we can inject some phenylephrine and watch their blood pressure literally change within seconds. We can deliver an antibiotic and watch them break their fever within 24 hours. You don't get that sort of feedback always with business. And so it's been a fun journey, but it's been a new challenge and a new way for me to kind of look at how I ask questions and solve problems.
Yeah, it's definitely a different animal to do business in medicine. I feel like it takes a certain set of skills, and they're mostly self-taught. There's no course for it. There's no manual. And the only way you can do it is either do it by yourself and learn from your own mistakes, or maybe potentially have a mentor. Tell us about your mistakes.
Wow, if I told you about all my mistakes, we'd be here for a couple hours. So I'll try and break them down into kind of bigger picture mistakes. I think the biggest mistake, I'd say let's focus on two. Number one is you've got to know your data. I was a psychology major. I like the people side of business. I gravitated more toward marketing because I liked that psychology of it. But when it came to the finance and the numbers, it just, we all things that energize us or drain us, and that drains me. And so by not knowing numbers, it hurt the business from not being able to predict where we were going to be in certain months. And listen, let's be honest. One of the biggest obstacles to that, in all fairness, if I can even show myself some grace, is the economic model for healthcare is broken. We see a patient today, and I hope I was in network. I hope when a claim gets sent out by some revenue cycle management company, we get paid $83.24 within 30 to 60 days. So it's a little hard to run a business and know your metrics, especially as a smaller private practice, when you don't know when or how much you're going to get paid. And so, we recently took away that complexity by moving to a direct pay model where we've opted out of insurance, have opted in with our patients. And now I can pull up a dashboard right now, and I know exactly how many dollars we made today. I've got a great accountant and bookkeeper now who I trust, where we have monthly financial meetings, we have weekly metrics. And so I think
Joe,
all that's—
I ask you about mistakes. That's hardly a mistake, man.
well, when you lose, here's the mistake, Tudor. I've lost hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that's the mistake. So I'm saying that the mistake is not knowing your data and your numbers.
But you got out of the insurance business, which is a painful process, but it's hopefully a good one.
Absolutely. I mean, I think one business tenet I've learned is, what's one decision you can make that solves 1,000 other decisions? And by opting out of insurance, that solved 1,000 other decisions I'd have to deal with.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, knowing the biggest mistake is not knowing the data, and certainly insurance played a role, but not having a really good bookkeeper I could trust is a mistake tied into that. Not having dashboards of, leading indicators. When you look at your revenue at the end of the month, that's a lagging indicator. But what were the leading indicators that you should have been looking at on a daily and a weekly basis that would have predicted your financial situation? And again, that's easier outside of insurance. So that's probably been the number one of many mistakes I've made.
Interesting. Let's go back to yourself a little bit and your approach, your personal approach to your journey. What do you think it's the habit or routine that gets the smallest credit for your success?
Getting selfish about my health. I have never once been willing to sacrifice my own physical and mental well-being during this entrepreneurial journey. And that's partly because I'm a physician and I value health and I see all the illnesses and diseases that occur when you don't do that. That's partly as I've studied other people in business and I see that they're clearly financially successful, but they are by all accounts not healthy people. And it's also just understanding the physiology of it. I understand that if I'm not sleeping, if I'm not exercising, if I'm not putting good nutritious food in my body most of the time, I'm not going to make great decisions. And really, when it comes down to it, I need to do about 2 really good hours of work a day. Now, for most physicians hearing that, they go, oh, what the hell are you talking about? Like I've got clinics where I'm working 8, 10, 12 hours. I'm not talking about your craft and being your physician and worker bee side of things. As a business owner, you have to make very important decisions that again are going to have lasting impacts. Should I hire this person? Should I sign up for this software platform? Should I opt out of insurance? Should I sign this 5 or 10-year lease? All of these things are very, very big decisions. And I knew that if I were making those under anything less than an ideal physical, emotional, and mental health, that I'd just be doing a disservice to myself. So I really feel that the most selfless thing you can do for others, for your business, is to get selfish about your health. And we all have 24 hours in a day. Yes, we're all busy, but I don't buy the excuse that, quote, I don't have time to exercise. I don't have time to sleep.
Yeah,
I
it's a
sleep.
matter of priorities.
It is. It is. And yes, does it take getting creative? It does. I've had to get very, very intentional with how my schedule looks. So, I invested a lot of time recruiting and training the right people so I can do my 2 hours of work and then I can go to get my 10,000 steps in a day. I can do my 30 to hour long workout every day. I can take an extra 10, 15 minutes and prepare food, or I've got to take 2 hours on a Sunday and meal prep for the week. So it's got to be a priority. I think that is the biggest thing that is missed that makes a huge impact. And let's be honest, I feel a fiduciary duty to my patients. I've got to walk the walk. I don't feel good if I'm not healthy telling my patients to be healthy. So I really take that seriously. And I want a great health span, like you alluded to earlier. So that's clearly the number one thing people need to really focus on is you got to take care of your health.
Yeah, it's the way you present yourself to your patients because, it's like going to a gym to have a personal trainer that's obese and sick and, wheezing.
Mhm.
You're probably gonna get out of there. But yeah, so let's deconstruct you a little bit more.
Are you a busy medical professional striving to excel in life and work? Stellar Success Podcast brings you the habits and insights of top leaders in medicine and beyond. Discover strategies for balance, growth, and fulfillment in every episode. Follow us on Instagram at Stellar Success Podcast for daily inspiration. Start your journey to success today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel now.
What's your day look like? How do you structure your day? Give us an example of your daily habits.
Yeah. So right now I'm typically waking up around 5:30 in the morning. Get up, get my cup of coffee, take a couple of my favorite supplements, which right now are vitamin D and some omega-3 fish oil. And then I go over to my office. I put in some calming music. I really like Brain FM. Just some background music that's been shown to kind of help get you in that sort of deep work zone. And I've already sort of planned out my day, either beginning of the week or the night before. So I've really tried to dial in my calendar. So I knew, say for instance, this morning from 6 till 7, I really had to follow up on some sales emails that I had sent out. That was the most important thing I had to do this week because I've got some travel scheduled for later in this week. On a different week, it was redoing our website copy. So I know that I'm good for about 90 minutes of writing. And after about 90 minutes, I need to kind of take a bit of a break. So I block out typically the most important task first thing in the morning, where it's solo work. On weeks in which my children are with me, I stop that early enough so when they wake up, I can spend time with them. On weeks my kids are not with me, my wife knows that I'm going to do my work and I'll come say good morning and hello to her, and she has her own kind of stuff she works on. Then I'm usually doing my workout around 8 a.m., resistance training, some sort of cardio. I split them up, cook breakfast at home. And then, usually starting by about 10, 11 is when I will start kind of doing things that are more in a sort of a group setting. So Tuesdays are my days to try and batch my meetings. Mondays, I try and leave open for, again, getting some more work done on content. I try to do more meetings in the afternoon because after lunchtime, I've put most of my best work in, and, I can sit and do a podcast and talk to my team, for an hour or two. But if you ask me to sit down right now and write a blog article or think about our social media, I'm probably not my best headspace. I'll break it up with walks. Again, trying to eat lunch most of the time from home or cooking something ahead of time. And then, I usually try and shut things down by, late afternoon, 3, 4 p.m., where, again, my kids are either coming home from school or my wife and I are going to go take a walk, cook some dinner at home, and then I'm done. Computer is off by dinner time unless there's something really urgent that has come up. I put my phone away, do reading in the evening, listen to some records, crossword puzzles, something that is not sitting in front of a screen. And then, we try and build in our little habits. So my wife and I, at least 2 to 4 days a month, we're going to have our date night. We're going to watch, our fun thing is on Fridays, we'll watch like an 80s movie from our childhood, a couple times a month. So, we'll go play some tennis together. We'll get together with friends. So it's not, it may sound very regimented, but it really ends up being just a couple hours of work. And then, I'm still a practicing physician. So for me, Fridays is a busy clinical day. I do a lot of vasectomies, so I'll usually be in the clinic all day, but I'll spatter a couple hours here and there throughout the week to go visit with our team, visit with some patients, making sure that my presence is felt there. So I'm still, to be honest with you, what I described, still figuring out, and it's still relatively new. It didn't always look this way. But the wellness habits, I'm in bed by, my friends know this, I'm in bed by 8:15, 8:30. Now I may read for a half hour, 45 minutes, but, that's non-negotiable Sunday through Thursday. I don't, we're not going out to an 8 p.m. dinner on a Thursday. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just not happening. And then I have a little bit more leeway on Fridays and Saturdays. So.
Very nice. Yeah, it looks regimented, but it's actually very structured, and that gives you a list of priorities, like you said, about yourself to take care of you first. We have a big problem in the society, and especially in healthcare. A lot of people are not able to retire for financial reasons. What are your strategies to plan ahead, to get yourself into a good financial situation? Do you have any preferences in terms of investments? Do you have any strategies you follow? Anything in particular that you would recommend?
Yeah. Just first off, I don't ever plan on retiring. That's certainly one aspect and different as I'm planning. I think the day you stop working is the day you stop living. Now, it's not going to look exactly like it does today in that structure I just described. I plan on traveling a bit more, living abroad, but I will be doing something of purpose for the rest of my life. When I think about current investments and how I'm going to get there, I steal this from another entrepreneur. I believe Alex Hormozy said this. Excuse me if I'm miscrediting him, but he says invest in the S&Me 500, not the S&P 500. And by that, I think the best investment I can make is by creating a company and an asset centered around my knowledge as a physician and healthcare professional and entrepreneur that will far outproduce any investments I make in real estate, in the stock market, you name it. Now, yes, I've got retirement funds. I've got brokerage accounts, IRAs. I have life insurance policy, disability. I've got structure there. I don't carry credit card debt, So it's not to say I don't do any of that, but when I look at it, I say, what is the most effective use of my knowledge? And for me personally, it's not trying to go and learn how to outsmart the stock market or how to out Warren Buffett. It's to be Joe Pazona. And I'm a board certified physician who sees a major opportunity to improve wellness in this country, improve men's health and women's health. sees a huge opportunity to inspire other physician entrepreneurs to build an alternative ecosystem based on wellness, one based on physician leadership. And that's how I think about it. So, I'm really investing in my company and building a team. So, as I described my week earlier, you noticed it wasn't, well, I see patients Monday through Friday for 10 hours a day. And the reason is I'm building and scaling a team to deliver that and deliver at a larger scale. So I think that's my biggest thing. And then I very often do kind of audits of what I want my life to look like. So again, I've got a future idea of how I want my life to look, say 10 years from now when my youngest kid is out of the house and my wife and I are empty nesters. But I want to enjoy the journey along the way. I don't want to just work my butt off for the next 10 years and not enjoy myself. So I'm trying to slowly transition to what that's going to look like over these next 10 years. So that's taking time to travel internationally. It's playing tennis because I really enjoy doing so. It's taking walks with my wife. It's cooking. So I already feel like I'm trying to build in that balance. It's just right now, probably the work is up here and the rest is here. And it'll probably be a little bit more like this one day. So that's how I'm approaching it.
Very nice. Very nice. Now, with all this approach and again, what you know right now from what you've been through, if you would go back to your own self when you started this, what kind of advice would you give to yourself?
Oh boy, that's a fantastic question. I think the one piece of advice I would give is, well, maybe two. Number one, be patient. It's going to take longer than your surgeon brain is ready to accept. I love this off starting. I love the immediacy of surgery. Well, business is not immediate. As they say, the overnight 9-year success, right? You just blink and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God. It's a slow grind. It really is. And so there's been moments where I wouldn't say I was impetuous and made rash decisions, but I felt very frustrated in moments, and that probably reflected on my team. I'm not a guy who yells. I've been very big into culture, but I certainly have had some ups and many downs throughout this journey. And I think if I better practice patience, maybe those downs wouldn't have been so low because I would have expected them. So, I think that's probably the primary thing I'd like to go back and tell myself. And related to that is find a way to start enjoying the journey sooner, because it's going to take longer. I always had this idea that there's going to be this magic moment where revenue hits X and all of a sudden my wildest dreams come true. And I've been smart enough to hear from other people, whether it be actual mentors or reading books and podcasts, that moment is always anticlimactic. Always. It's never as good as you think it's going to be. And if anything, you get there and you go, all right, well, now what? So I'm trying to enjoy the journey. And that's something that's definitely even new in the past, Tudor, I would say 3 to 6 months, where I'm really trying to enjoy every day for what it is and going, hey, I've got my numbers. I know what we've got to do to be successful. I can't control when all these things are going to hit, but I know if we just keep doing that and I start building more of that ideal schedule and calendar now. So I know that this week I'm going to do some great work for my company, but I'm also going to go away for 4 or 5 days with my wife this week and really enjoy myself. And that's okay. I don't have to grind out 80-hour work weeks to make this happen faster. Because honestly, if anything, I may slow it down if I do too much. Like if anything, I get in the way of things. I've got to let these things sort of build out. So it's, be patient and enjoy the journey.
Yeah, definitely. That's something that's very important. And I think very few people realize that when we get older, the only thing that matters is not how much you worked, is not how much you made, it's not how wealthy you are. It's how many memories, how many people you know, and they know you and they miss you when you're not there. And I think that cannot be bought with any amount of money. And finally, money is a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the purpose. It's a tool to make us live better, right? And especially in medicine, I think you hit the nail in the head here with the fact that you focus on yourself and your health span more than your business or your wealth or whatever else. And finally, that's what's going to matter at the end. And you're going to be able to do whatever you want after medicine, maybe practice the way you want, and do something else. People think of retirement age at 62 or 65 or whatever it is like, oh, I'm just going to stop working and go to a beach and lay on the beach the whole day. there are very many successful people that started at 62 and 65, and they were successful, and they had a second life, I would say, doing something else that they did previous.
Yeah, no, you're so right. I mean, this concept I've come across from multiple people of ikigai, from the Japanese, of that sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And you have to have that in your life. You have to. And the day you don't have that, again, is the day you stop living. And so not only does that bring you the most potential health span and longevity, it's also what's fun about life. You know, I mean, it's fun to do that. Now, you can't be going, again, 100 miles an hour, 24/7. You are going to burn out, but there can be that balance. And like you said, it could look like something different. I mean, your purpose could be something outside of medicine, and maybe one day mine will be. But I really love what I'm doing. I feel like I'm in that second phase of my career in life right now, and I've been removing obstacles over these past 5 years to create that life that I want, that I believe is simultaneously building a healthcare team where the people who work with us are really happy, and I'm very proud of the environment and the jobs that we've created. And our patients are very satisfied. They want this experience too. And so, I'd encourage all physicians and healthcare professionals to say, you don't have to keep accepting the status quo. There's no reason you can't start today building that sort of life that you want. Because again, it's a broken system, and our colleagues are being burnt out. They're leaving healthcare. We're not making our public any healthier. We've got to do something different.
I hope your wisdom and your advice will reach out many people, and someone will reach out to you for more advice. How can they do that?
Yeah, I would love that opportunity. I have colleagues reach out to me on LinkedIn all the time. That's probably the best way, is just to find me, Dr. Joseph Pazona on LinkedIn. I'm the only one there. You can't miss me. And I respond to those direct messages, especially when it's a physician, not so much so when it's some software developer trying to sell me something once again. But no, I'd welcome to talk to any colleague. We got to serve. We have to serve each other. We forget that when all is said and done, there's only 1 million physicians in the United States. It's not that many. And probably the number practicing is maybe only 70-80% of that. And that number is sharply declining every day of those who are practicing. And we've got to help each other out. It's a broken system. I'm in it. I get it. I see it. You can do this. I mean, I went into this journey with zero business experience. My business plan was literally on the back of a napkin one day. I mean, that was it. And so it can be done, but it takes humility. It takes asking lots of questions. And I hope I can save people the hundreds of thousands of dollars of mistakes that I made, in that process.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you for being here.
I appreciate it. This is really great. I love what you're doing. And thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. I hope we can reach that 1 million doctors that we have in the United States, and provide some content and some perspective from your point of view and from others' point of view to be more successful. Keep doing what you're doing.
One at a time. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get there one at a time. I mean, it's I believe that we can make a difference, and people want the change. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
All right, have a great day.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com/guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.